Thank you. Well, hi everyone. Hello, CodeBeam. Have you all been having a really good conference the last few days? I want to hear it. How is it going? Yeah, awesome. This is actually my first CodeBeam Europe, and my first in-person CodeBeam event. I did attend one online, but this has been so much fun, and it's lived up to every expectation. Can we actually have a big round of applause for all of our sponsors and all of our organizers, please? It's been so great. So I actually come from the Elixir space. One of the things I've always said about Elixir is that I really love being in the Elixir community. This group is why I want to be in this language, even though I can technically do my job in any language. I think actually all of us probably could do our jobs in any language. We're all language agnostic. But we still choose to do this, and I actually think that's really incredible to see. Being here has been really fun, but I also think it's also very important. These conversations that you all have been having with each other and just the people that you've met over the last 2 days, I think it's actually a game changer for you in your career. It's not just about the networking, it's just the fact that you're allowing yourself and enabling yourself to listen to new ideas and engage in debate and hear somebody tell you about something that they've done that you might have always done one way, and you're willing to hear another way of doing it. And honestly, I think that's kind of the most important thing. You're all overall willing to learn about how others think about tech problems, and I think that is actually foundational to building good software. So, welcome to Empathy in Engineering. My name is Sundi. I'm an engineering manager at Cars Commerce, also known as Cars.com. If you happen to recognize your voice, you've been listening to me, and you think, oh, she kind of sounds familiar, it might be because I'm a co-host on the Elixir Wizards podcast. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, and we're also recently on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, Elixir community has been a really great run. Definitely check us out. So the core concept I actually want to lean into today is about building better software. I don't think that the magic in building better software is in a brand new tool, the shiny fun thing, AI helpers, although they can speed you up, we know that, or really any silver bullet technical solution. I think that building better software actually starts with properly functioning teams. I guess just a question for you all. How many of you all are working remotely, like at home? Okay. How many of you have returned to office completely? That was actually how I was, okay, that's a few. What about, for those of you who are remote, how many of you are seeing your teammates sometimes in like offsites? Once a year, a few times. Okay, that's actually really encouraging. Okay, great. You all are really well off, in a good spot. So we now live and work in a time where most people are working together and just engaging with their teammates through computer screens. And I think that over time, we start to reduce people to just their Slack profile photo or just like their little dots on the screen instead of, real humans. We work with real humans. And it's just by the sheer nature of not seeing them in person. I don't think we do this on purpose, but it does happen. I actually started thinking about this idea a few years ago, actually more than a few years ago. It was the start of my career. I was a junior engineer, and I lived in Washington, D.C. I worked at a small startup. I've told a few stories here, actually, about that fun startup. And I was learning a lot, not just about how to code, but how to be a good teammate, about all of the real-world problems that we were facing and challenges in the workplace that were not just technical. But it was while I was in D.C. that I actually, I took the train to work every day. I really loved living in the city, early 20s, on my own for the first time, commuting to work by train. Didn't have to worry about keeping a car. And every once in a while, I would be commuting with tourists. DC is a popular spot to come visit sometimes. And we would have, cherry blossom festivals or, the occasional event downtown. And, tourists were pretty common. You knew when tourist season would be. And I was commuting to work one day, and I have this core memory of sitting on the train, I forgot my headphones, and there was a group of tourists next to me, and they were talking about what they wanted to do, where they were going, and they were going to get off at this one station, and they were debating on where they wanted to go to lunch and how they were going to get from this monument to this museum. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, they're so loud. It's so annoying. I wish I had my headphones. I don't want to listen to this. Why do I have to listen to this? Like, I was just complaining in my head. Maybe I forgot to drink coffee or something. But it was just really annoying. And then I thought, they can't even get off at that station. It's closed right now. They should have looked it up before they left. I was being very unreasonable. But I did something that I don't really ever do. I actually just got up and I said to them, hey, sorry, didn't mean to eavesdrop, but if you get off at that station, it's actually closed, so you'll have to walk to the other station. You might want to actually go to this other transfer point. I gave them a bunch of directions, and then they were really appreciative. They thanked me, and then we talked about where to get food, and I gave them some recommendations, and they mentioned where they were coming in from, and it was just actually a really pleasant experience. And I had to stop and think about that on my way to work after, because they got off the train. And I was thinking, what was the difference between before I was actually talking to them and after? What was that moment? What happened where I was really just so annoyed and not angry, just frustrated? And then I was actually having a really good conversation, and I was in a good mood when I got to work. And I started thinking about this concept as a concept, first of all, but also as this moment I crossed this invisible threshold when I went from being the outsider of the conversation to the insider of the conversation. And I think we have this threshold in tech. I think we have it everywhere, actually. And you can be on the outside of every conversation until you're on the inside of every conversation. And I think it shows up a lot. So I want to talk to you all about a project that had a lot of those problems, and how I kind of crossed the threshold with most of them. But before we get into that project, there were a few other examples of when this happened. Same fun startup. We had a DC and New York office. And DC versus NYC absolutely reigned deep. We were fighting all the time. I mean, I'll speed up. We have a very great relationship now. I'm still in contact with all of my friends from that company. We're really close. But in the beginning, we had a nice little rivalry. Oh, engineers in DC are the best, New Yorkers, they're always late to, work, they're showing up and lunch, and, there was just all sorts of back and forth. And I wondered, how are we ever going to get over this? This is really frustrating. It takes up a lot of energy in our day. And then one day, we just started commuting back and forth to see each other. I actually made it an intentional hey, can I go see my team a little bit more often? Because I had counterparts in New York. But we had folks from New York come down to the DC office, and they would visit us. They'd hang out for a few days. And then a lot of us from DC, we would go up and visit our teams for a few days, and we did that every month. And slowly, we started to feel like a cohesive team. Not two offices, not the other side of the same coin, just one team. And I guess it worked. Like I said, we are really good friends today. Really appreciate them. I think another situation that you all might be more familiar with, this concept of product versus engineering. I don't know how many of you don't have to raise your hands, you don't have to, yeah. How many of you have this particular situation going on at work? But we see a lot of this, I think. There's a lot of people who are engineers, and then they say, product won't let us do anything, or product changes their mind a lot, and then there are definitely engineers who product people who will say, oh, engineers are working on the wrong thing, they're working too slowly, they deploy things, they break things all the time, and it's just like a they kind of conversation. And I think while there might be some serious issues between both sides, I think coming to the table and talking about them are really important. And again, crossing that threshold, walking over to your product manager or slacking them, asking them, how can I be helpful? What were you expecting that would be different? And product managers asking engineers, what is important to you? I know we need to do this feature, this sprint or this quarter, but what is important to you? I will say that 99% of the product managers I've ever had, I'm very lucky, but they've all been open to this conversation. They want us to succeed. They want the company to succeed, or the feature, or the project. So they've always been very open to having this conversation. I think it's just important to remember that you could build it up in your head as something that, oh, yeah, I don't want to talk to them. They just hate us. It's really easy to write that off, but I think it's, important. Just talk to them sometimes. The us versus them concept is showing up on all of our teams and probably a lot of aspects of our lives. And I started noticing this on this project that I've been on in the last year or so, a little over a year actually. And it came up on a new project that we had at cars.com. So this new project was a full redo of a page that exists, a page that's one of 3 major visited pages for the application. We really wanted to redo it in a way that was a foundational upheaval, a complete architectural rewrite, because there were several things that we wanted to do with that page that we could not do with the way that it was currently constructed. One of the first things that we wanted to enable, not maybe do in the first round, but we wanted to create an architecture that would allow us to eventually personalize the page. So maybe somebody hits this page 7 times, they always go to one section. They always look for one piece of information. So maybe in the future we can serve that to them first. We also wanted to support A/B testing. We wanted to do better experiments. Like I said, one of the 3 most popular pages in the whole application. When somebody wants to put an experiment on your page, the queue is a mile long, or whatever the measurement is. I'm sorry, my American showing. It's a really long queue to get on our page. And so being able to do rapid development testing it was very important to us. And then just overall, we wanted a faster page. The bloat was pretty high, the load time was really long, and we just, as a technical benchmark, we wanted to get faster. So what was the original plan? Sorry. If you didn't know, cars.com uses Elixir. Elixir uses Phoenix. And the future of Phoenix is LiveView. So, draw one line to the other end, and we have to make this new page in LiveView, right? Yeah, no brainer. So we got started, and we started building out the layout, the architecture. We designed where we wanted to put some of the modules and what we wanted to do differently, what we wanted to replicate from the old page. Was there anything we needed to have? Was there anything we could let go of? We got a few months in, and we were getting the idea of it down. Then something was interesting that happened alongside our project. Another project had just wrapped up that was a internal messaging system, or not internal, but if you list your car, you could talk to people who were purchasing, your potential buyers of your car. And that had launched to not only web, but to the iOS and Android applications at the same time. So cars.com does have mobile applications. And I got a notice from someone who just said, hey, this was a really successful project, and it launched all 3 clients at the same time. There were a few hiccups. The mobile apps team said, hey, we should be involved more with these architecture conversations so we know that what you need us to support in the future can be supported. You build an architecture and just expect everybody to be able to use it, doesn't always work out. So I said, okay, I'll make sure they're involved. Involved was the word, a famous last word. I think 50% of my brain goes to mobile apps today. So that's telling you a little bit about where we're going with this story. So yeah, this was the plot twist. About halfway through, we realized that we didn't just have to involve mobile apps, but we needed to support them from day one. Because we were actually now leaning towards a future where mobile apps needed to roll out our features at the same time as us. And so I'll give you a backstory on that. We have a web environment, and people dream up a cool new feature, and they say, engineers, make it happen. And so we did it on the web. Then we proved it was a good feature on the web, and then 6 months, 12 months, however long down the line, it came to mobile apps, which is a little backwards if you consider the fact that our mobile apps users are maybe our most, I wouldn't say critical users, but we do have a lot more traffic and all of that good stuff. I mean, apps, if you've ever worked in mobile apps, you want mobile apps users, right? So it's a little backwards. The features should have gone to the higher rate of traffic group first. And so, our plot twist was, okay, we're 6 months into this, and we've built out an architecture that does not support mobile apps, not upfront, not without a lot of rework. And in fact, if we do this page this way, we're going to be writing things a few times. So we're writing it for iOS, we're writing it for Android, we're writing it for web, Phoenix LiveView. And sometimes, we'll send one piece of data to one, and the other one formats the data a little bit differently. And all of a sudden, it's out there in prod, and somebody comes to you and says, there's a bug, it's wrong in one place. Which place? Why? You can't really figure it out. So we were starting to think, oh, we need to unify it. And so we actually started over. The moment you realize you have to start over and tell your leaders about it is a fun one. I hope none of you have to do it. But I do think this was an important, lesson for me, for people involved. I think sometimes a lot of time people will think that leaders think that they need to project strength, and that means being right all the time. But I think true strength in this moment means it doesn't mean that you're never wrong. It just means that you have the ability to step up and say, yeah, I know I was wrong. I take accountability for that. This is my plan to fix this. This is why I think we need to shift. And this is what I think we need to do. And I think most of us, I hope most of us work in an environment where that's not the craziest conversation to have. So we realized we were building the wrong thing, and we said something about it. And then we started refactoring. So in the old world, we had a back end that served the front end for web. And then we also had same back end served a GraphQL layer that the iOS and Android apps would query to get the data that they needed. And Cars Web, we could just repo get anything from the database we needed. We need a VIN, cool. Photos, awesome. GraphQL, if the iOS or Android engineers needed anything, they had to ask an API engineer, and then they had to add it to the schema, and then it was incompatible because it wasn't an int, it was a string, and then, oh my gosh, it went on, right? So enter server-driven UI. If you've never heard of it, it's essentially an architecture pattern that allows you to build something once and send it to all 3 clients at the same time. Instead of hard coding the UI logic on each client, you actually create the server-side API logic on the back end, and you send it to all 3 front-end clients. And in theory, if you've done all your back-end logic on the back end, and it's been done in one place, and all you're doing is sending codes or sending the value down, everyone shows the same thing. If somebody comes to you and says it's wrong on the back end. It's a really great world to live in. But this only works if everyone understands how it works, and if that schema was agreed upon by both parties in the beginning. Can you tell that's not quite how that went? So, new world. We have the back end. We created schemas and API queries in the middle layer, and then we sent that to all 3 front ends, as I've just described. We needed that shared language between platforms. And learning to work together was interesting here. This wasn't just a technical shift. It was a cultural one, because imagine you're a Phoenix engineer, you're a LiveView engineer. Maybe a lot of you are, actually, so you don't have to imagine it. And you can do anything, and you can do it lightning fast. You don't have to wait for anybody. You live in your own world, and it's great, and Phoenix is fast, and you love Phoenix, and you do everything with it. And it's just, it's been your world. You go to all the conferences. This is great. And then you have to slow down because somebody tells you to. Somebody tells you have to work with another group of people that you rarely talk to. You have to now support them. You have to now guide and shape an API that you don't really want to support, you don't know much about. We didn't have a ton of GraphQL engineers before this. And it can rub people the wrong way, They want to do their own thing. We get that. But we needed web, iOS, and Android engineers to move in sync because that was how we were going to move faster. Like I said, learning to work together is essential. And so we had to come together at the beginning stages of planning any particular module because they had to agree what they were going to send. iOS could ask for one thing and Android could ask for another thing, and web was like, oh, I just got that from the database, sorry. That world didn't fly anymore. So we had to make small changes on how we work together as a team. And in fact, we were working together as a team. I think this was another shift we had to do. We used to have a back-end team, Elixir team, and mobile apps teams. We are now one team that owns the domain of this page. We are fully integrated. We do everything together, stand-ups, we have retros, all of that. We do that together. And in order to move faster, we actually, I'll say one of my engineers came up with a really great idea of, why don't we mock out this data first? We'll create a schema design, we'll put in some fake, stub data here, hold that spot, then an API engineer can work on that, and the iOS, and so all the clients can work on it. No one was blocked. As soon as the schema design was picked, and they said go, then they started working on it, and nobody was blocked. And so far, this has really worked, and we've delivered a lot of modules this way. So what did we actually build? We built a brand new page without LiveView. All of our modules are written in a version of JavaScript. Sorry if that word hurts you. We have, everything is being built, every feature is delivered to all 3 clients at the same time. So every time we launch a new feature, that goes live on all 3 clients the exact same moment, asterisk, App Store rollout, that kind of stuff. 20-something modules on the page. It's much faster. I mean, like 65% faster in some cases. Really, we're so proud of that load time. I'm thinking here. I wanted to show it to you, but just in case. And we built this page with all of the modules and all these features in about 18 months total, and we launched it last week. So it's out there. Thanks. I didn't have a slide for this, but I do want to really just mention, I'm really proud of the team for coming together to do that. It's not hard when the problem is people problems. Or I'm sorry, it's not easy when the problem is people problems. It's easier to tackle something when it's a tech thing, Oh, that's too slow, let me figure out how to make it faster. Oh, that's too messy, let me figure out how to clean it up. But when the problem is, oh, I don't want to support them, why do we have to do this for them? Or, they didn't do it this time and I can't support, the API now because it's sending me something different. It's like easy to blame it and just toss it over the fence. But this team has come so far and I'm really proud of them. So what did we learn? Communication is, in a lot of the times, and I'd argue most of the times, the key to architecture. Because you can't say you're going to build one thing and then not tell anybody about it if you're expecting other people to either use it, work with it, or be the end user of it. Clarity prevents rework. I sometimes ask myself that what if question, like what if we had just asked a few more people, what does this project really need to have? Because if you remember those first 3 problems, not a single one of those says, hey, support mobile apps. It just came out while we were working on it, and it was very obvious we hadn't done enough homework. We hadn't talked to enough people. And trust accelerates delivery. When your teams and your stakeholders trust you, you are not watching your back and documenting everything and making sure everyone is aware of every single moment. When you're working on teams that trust each other, you're able to actually deliver what you need. We also learned the power of questions, really good questions. What's hard about this on iOS? How can I support this better? Why is this different for the API? How do you do that differently from us? So, well, we have a native Swift thing that does this, so we don't actually need you to send the color down or send the data down this way. Oh, we have a time formatter. Oh no, we should do that on the back end. We want the time to stay the same everywhere, right? The moment of listing. Can we name this field so it's clear for everyone? Did you know that some words in Elixir are namespaced? I think you did. iOS and Android engineers did not, and so that was kind of fun. asking these questions up front kind of gets over these hurdles and these bumps. I don't know if everyone grew up with the put yourself in their shoes lesson as they went off into kindergarten for the first time from their parents, but it's a really simple concept. Think about somebody else's position before you make judgments or put your will upon them. Like I said, I think we all learned some version of this lesson when we were young, and I think a lot of us forget about it when we're working, and especially in a remote world, and we're not seeing that person in front of us. Even in a world where robots are writing our code or helping us, it's really cool. And even if we get to a place where they're building all of our software for us, you still can't take the human element out of it. Because what if you had that bot build you something and it's not what your boss wanted? It's not what your consumers wanted? No one wanted it? The ask if we should question. Building good software is about more than just the lines of code that you've built. It's about making sure that the people involved are aware, they're accepting of it, they've agreed upon it. One of the biggest lessons of advice that someone once gave me when I was moving into engineering management and transitioning from being an IC developer was make sure that no matter what you're doing, you are in alignment with your leadership. So, and I think that could go for anyone at any level. If you're a developer, you're aligned with your manager. As me as an engineering manager, I'm aligned with my manager, my director, my CTO, VP of engineering. Hey, this is the direction we're taking. I'm making these decisions about this. Good? We're good with that? Cool. We're going to go forward then. That alignment is going to be important. I know I haven't said the word empathy a lot here, but I think the lesson kind of stands that just thinking about people from other positions is the empathetic way to work, because that is considering how other people interact with you and how you interact with other people. Empathy in engineering is really you going out the next time you have the chance and breaking your own invisible threshold. You have maybe opportunities to going on a sales run with your sales team. You could participate in user interviews, talk to your users, see what they actually like and dislike about the app that you're building. You could think about your partner teams. I imagine a lot of you don't just work in isolation, but you might have DevOps teams you work with, analytics teams. We found something in this whole situation where our analytics team had always been doing a custom query to marry together lines of data that came from two different places. And they just got used to that life. When we actually started working with them, we were able to find out, oh, we could just do this one thing and pair those two things together, and you don't have to do that crazy query anymore. So small for us to do it, but they'd been doing it for years. Partner with your partner teams. If you think a little bit more about empathy as you do your jobs, I guarantee that you'll be building better software if you do. Thank you for your time.
Do we have questions? Anybody? Yep. I think you had to shout. I can just speak loud. Yeah. I really love that. I think it's so important to get the view from the other side and get into the shoes of the others. Do you have and then at the same time, I've seen a lot of team events that were totally not working at all in terms of achieving that. Do you have any advice how to get there? How to get the team there? Is there an exercise? Is there a formula? Some process?
I hate games. But not everyone does. So I think that, so the question, sorry, I'll repeat the question. How to get the team engaged in something when you actually get an offsite together? I think you need to ask your team. I asked my team what they wanted to do when we got together in Chicago, and admittedly, they all said indoor skydiving. So maybe sometimes that doesn't work.
Very specific.
Yeah. Then they suggested, axe throwing, because that's a fun thing. And then someone else said, whoa, why can't we combine those two? No, sorry. Serious answer, though. Find out what they want to do. when we had an on-site, one thing that they actually all said was valuable to them is we had a panel of our actual clients come in and tell us what was difficult for them about our application, or any application that they worked with, honestly. And the engineer said, that was incredible, we want more of that. And so that was nice to get that feedback. But they also really didn't like sitting through speakers, the motivational speaker type people. And so they said, we would love to have that panel, or a panel like them, and then maybe just like a chance to just get together and not necessarily hang out. Like, we're not talking bar stuff. We're talking like hanging out in one of these conference rooms and kind of get our ideas going. All those things that take you days to do and plan in a separate Zoom call, you can kind of do in a day. Just like you could do like 2 weeks worth of team activities in one day if you were just in the same room. So I'd say ask your team and hope they don't say indoor skydiving with axe throwing.
Any other question? Yep.
How were you able to get buy-in from your managers when you had to rebuild the application? Because obviously I could see them also saying, doubling down, this is some cost to work with it. How were you able to approach that conversation?
In that particular case, it was not workable. There were other particular situations with LiveView that would not have let us scale to what we needed to do. I'm not saying it's LiveView's fault, just sort of how the way that we were all set up, we couldn't do that. And then also, we knew we had a lot of work down the line that needed to support mobile apps. And when we presented it in that way, it was very clear that we had to go down a path that supported mobile apps. And now they're starting, okay, I had that conversation in January, and now they're starting to see some of the really good benefits. Like I said, if we change a line of code in the back end, if a law changes about how cars can come in and out of the country, which does happen, we need to make those changes quickly. And we can't always wait for the Apple Store to reject us because we don't have the right screenshot on the page, right? So having that be able to be updated quickly from the back end was a game changer. And explaining the benefits of it can be difficult in the face of, yeah, I know we messed up the 6 months, but think about the future. It can be a little hard, but like I said, I think being very calm and saying, yes, we know that this is messed up. We're not losing all of this. We didn't. We still had our modules that we built. Our front end was more or less the same, but we did have to shift to a JavaScript shareable component situation. We did tell them the benefits that they would be getting, but yeah, that conversation will never be easy. I think you just have to go into it saying, I know this is something that went wrong here. I own up to that. But I'm also coming to you now and telling you what we need to do to fix it. And having ideas about how to fix it is very helpful.
Right. I will take the chance and make one question on my own. You joined people from different teams, like 3 teams, together. How didn't you end up with meetings like 2-hour long every day?
Yeah. We did actually have a lot of long meetings at first, and then the complaints rained in about the number of meetings we were having. And I always joke that my job as an engineering manager is, the alternate title I could have is meeting fairy, where I wave my wand and I make everyone's meetings disappear. So I actually brought us, you mentioned having 1 meeting a day. I'm sorry, I can't get rid of my 1 meeting a day. It's our daily stand-up. I have allowed everyone to not have any meetings after that. Morning stand-up, that's it. Everything else we encouraged. A lot of huddles, a lot of impromptu Zoom calls as needed. I didn't ask them to be required at anything else.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Thank you very much.